Welcome to our new show, the What Anyone Can Do podcast with Leo Bottary and me, Randy Cantrell. Our new show picks up where the last show, Year of the Peer, left off, highlighting the simple truth that who you surround yourself with matters, and that if we enlist the support of others, give back to those who give to us, and pay it forward for the next generation, we can do anything. Author and keynote speaker Leo Bottary and I will interview a diverse group of thought leaders who will share stories and insights that will help you succeed in business and in life. How? By doing the things anyone can do, but most of us never will.
All right, Randy Cantrell. Kind of fun to be back doing one of these, riffs together here for a little while.
It's been a while.
Yeah, we took a little bit of time just to kind of getting stuff going around the book, of course. Had a great guest in Tina Martini last week. We've got some great guests coming up, and just, it's exciting. We're a lot of good things about the book, but first I think it's important to talk about the postseason.
We'll hawk it.
Because my Boston Red Sox are now 1-0 in the World Series. And I bring them up not only because, I'm originally from Boston and kind of Red Sox Nation is everywhere. And I was at this great, a bar called OG's here in Del Mar. A bunch of Sox fans there last night, but also a bunch of Dodger fans as well. And everyone was very respectful, played well together, some healthy ribbing, some good fun. But, a lot of that whole thing that we see now in the postseason, I think is really illustrates this whole idea of who you surround yourself with matters. Now, I think you got to look at both teams, both the Sox and the Dodgers, and know that it is very special to get a group of athletes to go through spring training, 162 game season, playoffs, and here they are in the World Series. And you don't get there without having all the right people and having all the relationships among those people, having the level of trust and the level of passion and desire and, commitment to the same goal as they do. I'm obviously much more familiar with the Sox, but when you look at the fact that the Red Sox this year won a franchise record of 108 games, their manager Alex Cora, former Red Sox player actually, but first-year manager, right? First-year manager of a Major League Baseball team, wins 108 games. And when you hear interviews from the players and they talk about the culture that he's created in that locker room and among those team members, it's really rather remarkable. And, many who talk about, what happened, Craig Kimbrell, who's the Red Sox closer, he's got that, such interesting motion, when he sets up to pitch and all of that, his stance that he gets into that looks like something out of Spider-Man or something. But not only has he's been an effective closer, but he's got a pretty heart-wrenching personal story. Last in November of 2017, November 3rd, actually, his daughter was born, Lydia Joy, and has since had two obviously life-threatening surgeries that she's had to deal with already. One of them was right around the time during spring training. And to have the team talk about how Alex Cora not only rallied around Kimbrell, but how the team rallied around the whole situation. And here you are now as we hit November 3rd of 2018. And Lydia Joy is getting ready to celebrate her first birthday, and the Red Sox would love to, accompany that with a World Series win. And but it's pretty remarkable, these things, I think, personally and professionally, to kind of bring us together, bond us, make us closer, and make us better, quite frankly. So I just not only my hat's off to the Red Sox and Cora and all that for what they do, but clearly, you've got to look at a Dodger organization that, has accomplished much the same during the season.
Well, the culture, to me, there was a story that I just read this morning, and I'm admittedly not a huge baseball person. Of course, here in Texas, here in North Central Texas with the Rangers, it's easy to not be a baseball guy. But there was an article about Cora and that manager, just kind of piggybacking on this notion of so much of this is not. That's not this kid's health issues and this player's daughter, not baseball related at all. It's just human stuff. But there was an article about Cora, first-time manager, signs a contract for $800,000, just way, way, way below market value. And he said his negotiation, there was only one demand that he made: a plane full of supplies to go to his home country, which, if I'm not mistaken, Puerto Rico, might have been Costa Rica, I'm not sure, but a plane full of supplies. One of the Sox, give me a plane full of supplies to go down there, because what you're going to see and what you're going to get is you're going to get genuine thank yous, and those are priceless. So hard to root against a culture that's kind of like that, in spite of how you might feel, about the Sox. And I'm sure many organizations have got similar stories, and there's little doubt it takes the talent on the field to make it all happen. But it does make you wonder if that same talent did not have that culture, what would the difference be?
I've actually spoken with a number of Yankees fans recently, interestingly enough, that are even wishing the Red Sox well. And let me tell you, that is saying something.
That is saying something. Yeah, it's definitely saying something.
But it really, it's about having the right people. It's also understanding what it is that is going to make someone successful in a particular organization, what is going to make a team work. We talk about this, this quality that Alex Cora is looking for in his players and for the atmosphere he's looking to create in the team. We've had many discussions about Gino Auriemma and UConn women's basketball team, and the fact that they have people graduating all the time, yet they're able to sustain a culture that has gotten them to 12 consecutive Final Fours and, more national championships than anyone in the country, with a real focus on being a great teammate and what that means and what that feels like, and understanding how everyone is there committed to just getting better and being better and helping each other be better. And when you have everyone committed to that, there's just really nothing like it. It's rather extraordinary. And I brought it up, of course, too, in the book and the business end of things when I talked about the ad agency Mullen Lowe, out of Boston. Now, again, I think you can look at probably a lot of different organizations that have this, but it is rare. It's rare when you have people who come to work at that agency, not to win national championships, but because they want to create the very best advertising in the world. And they believe they can be in an environment that can allow for that to happen. And that's what they want to be part of. They know they will personally get better. They know they can be associated with great work and a great team. And, it's really rather remarkable. And I think what I'm really hearing, of course, the book has been out, What Anyone Can Do has been out almost 2 months now. And the more I hear from people now, too, is that this is kind of the time of year as we hit, October, November, December, where we start thinking about what's next. We start thinking about 2019 and what are the things I need to be doing? What are the behaviors I need to start adopting to make sure that I can get what I want to be my best self, so that I can be the very best contributor to my team, and also for teams to think about where are we today and where do we want to be a year from now, what does that look like? And I think much of what we talk about in the book, and of course the framework we provide, there is, I think practical and powerful, and really look forward to people looking at that and, getting a book for themselves, getting one for a friend, getting one for their team, and using it really as a guide for 2019 in that regard.
As people, as we're getting headed well into the midway point of this fourth quarter. And I get that depending on the size of the company, a lot of people, back in the summer, they were gathering their teams together and trying to figure out some things. In your experience, what are some of the big hurdles? I know we have spent considerable time talking about how people don't follow through on commitments that they themselves make, and the importance of accountability, especially as it comes to like New Year's resolutions and things. But even before you get to the resolution, just to have some sense of self-awareness, to want to self-assess, whether it's an individual or a team of people, what in your experience are some of the hurdles to just get to there?
I think the biggest hurdle is to really, sit down and have a conversation with yourself about what it is you really want, not what you say you want, not what you think it might be nice or what other people might want for you, but what do you want? What matters to you? What do you care about? And if you're actually serious about making it happen, in most cases, again, I don't think most of us are setting goals for ourselves where, we're trying to get to the Olympics in 3 months, or we're trying to do, I'm
Right.
never going to play in the NBA, it's just not going to happen.
Right.
So, nor was I ever going to do it.
Yeah,
Definitely not going to do it now. So, how do I look at what I want for what myself and those around me? And I think really understanding that first and really being in touch with that, and again, not just something you say you might want to do, or it would be nice if you want to do it, but have it be a kind of failure is not an option type of attitude about it. Like, I am going to do this, and then the question is, of course, now what do I do in order to make that happen? Because it's not going to happen under the current scenario of just hope.
Right.
I mean, you have to just kind of be thinking about, what is that going to take? And that's where, when you kind of look at the people plan framework, you think about, well, what is it that I want? Have some conversations with people about that and really try to dig deep into what that looks like, and then get a sense of, well, who are the kind of people that I need to surround myself with that can make that possible for me, and I might be the kind of person who maybe needs different kind of people involved, right? Maybe it's someone who they're not necessarily steeped in any expertise about my goal, but boy, they're just such a positive, encouraging force, that they're always going to be there for me in that way, and always, make me feel that I can accomplish what it is I'm doing. You have other people that do have real technical expertise and advice or strategies, or the fact they've been through it before, they know other people who have, and they can make those connections for you. So you get a sense of what it's going to take and some of the specifics of what you can do, which allow us to work smarter instead of working harder, as we know. And I think for many of us, having some type of way, not for others to hold us accountable. I'm not sure that I love that scenario. I think it's more about people who help us hold ourselves accountable. It's very much our personal responsibility. It's our pride in what we do. It's our, wanting to set an example for others. I think by and large, I think about my daughters, for example, I don't really want to put something out there for them and say, here's what I'm going to do, only to tell them 2 or 3 months later, nah, I don't feel like it, or I don't want to do it.
Right.
That's what kind of example is that, and I think, so to the extent, that doesn't mean I never fail at anything, certainly, but at least from an attitude standpoint, I want to be that person who sets that example, for those around me, that and hopefully give them the confidence that they can do the same for themselves. They know, and the people who know me well know I'm not capable of superhuman feats or anything like that. I'm just like everybody else, and it's just a question of them seeing, well, but every day he does this little things every day. And this is kind of the point of Joe Henderson's comment back in 1976, that it's really about the people who do the little things that matter. It's not about big, huge talent all the time or superhuman feats. It's about doing the things that anyone can do that most of us never will. And so when we have people around us that can make us hold ourselves to account for what we have kind of publicly stated we want to do, that's a very powerful force to kind of keep us going, as opposed to maybe stating a New Year's resolution that maybe you do it publicly, but you probably do it once. No one ever asks you about it because they're concerned with their own lives and they have other things going on. But by and large, you keep that goal private. And when you do, and left to your own devices, oftentimes you're just not going to follow through on it. And that's just not me talking. That's University of Scranton, who says that 92% of people
exactly
at the New Year's resolutions. And look at it from an organizational standpoint. Depending on what in the research you look at, it's about 70% of strategic, organizational change initiatives at companies. They fail too, and they fail for the same reasons. Quite frankly, not everything, but I'll tell you, you could take that number and ratchet it up, in a big way if you employed some of the principles, not only in my book, but in other books,
Sure.
I'm sure, that have been written out there about the importance of doing, what it takes. It's so funny. I remember learning this concept, or at least having it finally hit home when I was at Mullen, and I had a conversation with the CEO about something, and we may have been talking about teams or something like that, and it was one of the situations where who the team everyone regarded as being the very best, let's say it was in college football that year, okay, loses a game, doesn't make it to the bowl game they were supposed to at the time and all that. What a big tragedy that was, and that they should really be in the game. And the CEO said, doesn't matter if they were the best team, they didn't earn the right to be there. And so what you've got now is you look at the Red Sox and the Dodgers, you can make whatever case you want about whether those are the two best teams to be there or not, but they earned the right to make that happen. Those guys are in the World Series, and everyone else is sitting at home. And, I think for all of us, as we look at, our own lives, we have to ask ourselves, yes, there are things we want, but are we willing to do what it takes to earn the right to make that possible, right? It's the story we've talked about many times with my daughters climbing the top of the mountain. Everyone wants the view from there, but are you willing to do what it takes to get there? And is it impossible? No. It's putting one foot in front of the other a lot of times, and being kind of mentally and physically kind of prepared to do that, but certainly not impossible. People do it all the time. And, it's just something that we as individuals and we as teams really need to think about in terms of what are we prepared to do to earn the right to be whatever it is that we're shooting for.
As I read through the book and of course, given our podcasting partnership and had read other various, iterations of the book, but now with this, and let's hold it up because it's a beautiful book. But I'm a fan of orange, I should say.
My books, I have a stack of them that are holding up my laptop right now to raise the profile of it. Although I do have the past book here still next to me, but no, obviously very excited about the whole what anyone can do concept. We're starting to get, now that people have had a chance to read it, we're starting to get some Amazon reviews trickling in, which are great. I really appreciate people taking the time to express their feelings about that. As what I always like to say about Amazon reviews is if you read the book and you really like it, then I would love for you to write a review. And if not, don't worry about it. It's not a big
exactly.
not a big deal. But I do think some of the reviews have been really thoughtful and they've been very personal. And it's kind of nice to see that. Of course, there's
and very detailed.
Many of the endorsements that you'll see from the Jim Kouzes and J.J. Rambergs and Claude Silvers and Rich Karlgaards and of the world. Are there on Amazon as well for people to see, and they get a sense of what the book is all about and their personal involvement and how it kind of spoke to them. But also, as other people start to read it, and as I talk about in the book also. I think when you look at the work, and of course, Tony Reese from Edelman was on the Year of the Peer podcast talking to us about, the Edelman Trust Barometer. And while the Edelman Trust Barometer is not about peers per se, or the people around us, it's a whole lot about trust and the decreasing trust in institutions, which essentially puts us in a situation where, well, who do we look to when we don't trust institutions? Well, we look to one another. And so this is why, whether you're looking to send your kid to college or buy a car or find a book that works for you and you want to read, people depend on every one of us kind of weighing in so that they can get a sense of, like, I want to know what people like me who've read the book say about it so that I know whether that it is right for me or not. And this is why the Amazon reviews, all kidding aside regarding, how many stars and all that kind of stuff. But my point about it is more about the more people that review it, the more that it gives people information they need that will inform their choice about whether they're buying, this book or any book or whatever it is they do. And I think it is hugely helpful. So, and I've also, as if someone, buys the book and wants to give, and actually gives a review, if they send me their mailing address, I'll send them another book to give as a gift. Because part of what I think is so important about the concept of what anyone can do is that it's something that people can do together. It can be 2 people, it can be 5 people, it can be 500 people who, decide that here's a framework that we want to adopt so that we can rely on one another, work with one another, help one another to be, our best selves, so that we can be, you imagine living in a world where everyone really operated as their best self. It'd be rather remarkable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, on every level. So I think if we can at least help some people, do this, and then those some people can share their personal success with using this framework with others so that they can do the same. I don't think it gets any better than that. I think that
I agree.
That's the most important reason for putting this text together. It was interesting because until Robert Thompson and I talked about podcast guests and the fact that the conversation evolved during the Year of the Peer from talking about formal peer groups and how and why they work so well to not just our peers, but all the people surround us, and taking it strictly out of the formal space and talking about it, additionally in kind of an everyday way, that was extremely compelling, even though at the time, in my mind, as I was doing these workshops around the country with CEO groups and key executive groups and all, and I was learning even so much more about how and why these peer groups are so powerful, rather than go deeper into that particular topic, at least right away, I really wanted to entertain this notion of what really we had learned throughout the Year of the Peer the Year of the Peer podcast, and recognize that I think there was a greater opportunity to put something on paper, if you will, or in the laptop, and create ebook or audiobook or whatever out of it. And the audiobook's in production, by the way, I understand. So, but the point is that I felt that could actually serve the most number of people. Because I'm figuring, hey, we're all anyone.
Yeah, well, it's universal. It's pretty universal.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly a bent to business and business leaders and all that, but we all know that it's really relevant to everybody. So that's been the exciting part of it, to try to put something out there and have people respond to it in a way where it can really help, change people's lives, and again, help them operate at their best self.
Well, and to the point, of how this conversation began and talking about this time of year and people planning and maybe the thing that is a big impediment for people even to set a goal before, in the book, and the subtitle of the book tells the tale. How surrounding yourself with the right people will drive change, opportunity, and personal growth. But as I was rereading, the book, I was thinking, which is why I asked that question. I was thinking about not just the people plan, which is a chapter in the book, not just the people plan after you establish the goal, but man, right now would be a great time to implement the people plan to figure out, what do you want to do? What do you want to do personally? What do you want to do as a leader, whether you're a business owner or not? What do you want to do, with your business? Because so many of us, we have kind of these informal voices in our head, these people who surround us, and we think, well, I know what mom would want me to do, or dad would want me to do, or this person would want me to do, but I really don't want to do it. And I'm wondering how many people fail at some supposed goal because it really isn't their goal. No. It's these other people's goal.
Sure. They want it for them, or they think society wants it, or they think whatever, it'll make them look good. It'll look good in their resume. I mean, all kinds of, crazy things. And, but
boy, changing the people that surround us to help us get to the heart of who we are and what we want, I think is as unutilized as it is on the other end to fulfill the goal.
Yeah. So, the plan itself, is full of alliteration, as you know, in terms of people plan, but then there's prepare, plan, and play. And I think, to your point, this fourth quarter is a great time to execute the prepare and plan stages of this, so that in January you can start plan. You can start really working and implementing, all of these things toward, whatever it is you want for yourself. And again, I think for, people out there, success or happiness, no one can define that for you. That is for you really alone to kind of figure out in many respects. And I say alone only from a standpoint of what's inside you. That doesn't mean, in fact, obviously, as part of this whole plan, I would encourage you to have conversations with others who can help you tap into what that is, for yourself. But again, you have to, come to that place, and you have to own it. I think people can help you get there. Sometimes we're not always very, it's like, I think for some people, it's just almost kind of embarrassing to kind of say, here, I want to do this, because unfortunately we do have too many people in our lives who will say things like, well, what do you want to do that for? Or what makes you think you can do that? It's like those, just stick a dagger in them right there. Right. I mean,
judgment comes really easy for most people.
Completely god awful. But, for whatever reason, and a lot of times, maybe I'm not suggesting those people are trying to be, ill-meaning or anything like that,
sure,
or mean to you or whatever, but it is such a common
response.
It's
what we do.
But it's not what we want to hear, and it's not what we need to hear, certainly. I mean, what we need to hear is, why, why can't I do it? Why does it have to be someone else?
Right.
Why does it have to be, why can't I do the same thing? Or I can sit at home so that a year from now I'm going to read in the newspaper that someone else did exactly what was my idea earlier for years before that. And I didn't do all those little things that anyone can do. They did. They got the goal, and I'm sitting here thinking about it still. I mean,
and sometimes it's just the endurance or the overcoming, of a challenge in life. To your point, this Sox pitcher, and into his life comes a little girl with some really major health issues. Got nothing to do with him being a pitcher. Life doesn't care. Life doesn't care if he's a starting pitcher or a closer, or, life doesn't care that he's a major leaguer. You've had some challenges in this past year. I've had some challenges, and everybody does. And I'm rather taken and a little bit preoccupied recently with just some of the desperation that's out there. And we're certainly coming into a time of year where it makes the press. I mean, suicide rates go up during holidays. I mean, there are a ton of successful people that by outward appearance, everything looks okay. And the next thing you know, they're not here because some moment of desperation just overtook them. And I'm not pitching this as a psychology self-help book, but the point has got to be made. What anyone can do also includes our ability to get help when we need help and not feel so ashamed in that, because I don't care who they are, major leaguer or not, we've all got crap that has hit our lives and knocked us down and dragged us out. And it is so much better to go through that with other people who can help lift us up. So, for me, it's, we want to get to the mountaintop. We want to achieve all of our wildest dreams, but sometimes we've just got to get off our knees and back on our feet. And people can help us do that.
One of my favorite illustrations that Ryan Foland does in the book, and of course his illustrations are at the head of every chapter. It's an amazing addition to the content. But I think my favorite, and there's a lot of really good ones, so it's tough, but my favorite is the one where it's the one person trying to move the couch by themselves, right? It's just like, well, the obvious need for help there, right? Because when you think about that, even if you could take the couch across the room by yourself, you're not going to do it without like wrecking the floor and do it whatever.
That's right.
I mean, it's just, it's not only easier, it's safer. You're going to do less damage. You're going to just have someone help you pick up the other end of it. It's not the end of the world, And yeah, there you go. Learn to ask for help.
See if we can get it focused here.
Oh, you've got it perfectly, and it's
good.
Basically, in the title of the chapter is "No one does it alone, so why should you?" And there's the person there for those of you who aren't seeing the video, and someone's got one end of the couch, and there's another person standing there, and of course, it's just learn to ask for help. Have the other person, pick it up, and they can help you get it across the room rather easily. And it is, but
it's amazing, isn't it? How many people don't?
Simple, yeah.
Amazing how many people don't view that as the act of courage that it really is. And I think especially as we're coming into this time of year, and when people may be looking back at 2017 and going, man alive, I should be so much further along than I really am, or they've got some life issue like the pitcher and his daughter, and you just need some help to get back on your feet. So that's what I love about it, but that's what I've loved about kind of the morphing and the iteration of this podcast to be so stinking inclusive and so broad in the spectrum of this whole who you surround yourself with matters. It doesn't matter. Bring a subject up that's part of the human condition, and it matters. It just does.
Well, to close out a little bit, kind of where we started, we were talking about the Red Sox, and we were talking about Craig Kimball's daughter, Lydia Joy. There's a very touching article that appears in the Boston Globe that recounts some of the story. And for those of you who may not be super familiar with all of the lexicon of baseball, Craig Kimball is the closer. He's the one who usually comes in at the very last inning to basically close out a ball game. And when he does so successfully, he tends to get what they call a save. It may not be the win, but it's a save. The team already has the lead. There's a winning pitcher been determined, but the closer in that time will be awarded the save. And yet, what the article talks about is that more than any of the saves Craig Kimball had this year, the big save was his daughter, who, of course, as they said, November 3rd will be celebrating her very first birthday, and the Red Sox are in the World Series. And I think the other little lesson there is that it isn't either or. Craig Kimball, he himself and his wife and those who surrounded him and his teammates and all that took care of family and took care of business. And they did both, and both yielding pretty remarkable results. So I think with that, when we think we have this, kind of false choice between either or, we often find that if we get little help from others, it's amazing what we're able to accomplish together. And so with that, I think
update us a little bit, because I get asked about these. So right. Talk to us a little bit about the wristbands.
Just another quick wristband update. And yes, of course, I'm wearing my wristband as well somewhere under my sleeve here.
And the hashtag is WACD, which is
Yep.
what anyone can do, FYI.
So the idea of the wristband is pretty simple. I think it's just a helpful device for, if there's a goal or there's something that I want to accomplish, I keep it on my wrist and I keep that goal in front of me at all times. And it reminds me that this is something that, I want to do. When I run into people who I think could be helpful in some way, I'll say, hey, I'm trying to accomplish this thing. And here's, is there any way you could help me with X, Y, or Z? Conversely, if I see someone wearing the wristband, I will ask them, hey, what is it that you're trying to do and how can I be helpful? So I think if you decide that you're going to accept decide to move forward with your own people plan this year and next year, and then your wristband becomes a device that kind of keeps that ever present and helps you make that happen. And again, together, I think we are capable of doing so many amazing things. And so let's do that. Let's close out this year on that note, and let's be thinking about 2019, as a time when we as a country and we as a world can come together as opposed to
here.
Divisive.
Yeah, let's invite people to visit the website, Leo Bottary. It's LeoBottary.com. You'll see a tab in the navigation that says books. So it's actually leobottary.com/books. And that will take you to little, recaps of both books. At the top will be What Anyone Can Do, and there are links there that take you to Amazon, and it's found anywhere that books are sold. What Anyone Can Do. And it looks like that. Like I said, it's a beautiful
Amazon review, because people care about what you think, and it will help their choice about what they do going forward.
Exactly. Thanks, Leo.
All right, you bet. Thanks, Randy.
To learn more about our show and what we do, to submit questions to us, and to subscribe to What Anyone Can Do podcast, please visit our website, whatanyonecando.com. What Anyone Can Do podcast is hosted by Leo Bottary and me, Randy Cantrell. Music provided by Kevin MacLeod is Vibe Ace, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Thanks for watching or listening. We hope you'll share the podcast.